Good morning! Today we're going to make this simple neurographic tree. It's a way of taking the neurographic art process and applying it to something that is abstracted but not completely abstract. So let's get started. You want your highlighters, your thick and thin pen. We are not going to use the thin barreled dark thin pen, skinniest pen. The reason is it's not permanent, and that means that when we use our highlighters, either this pen will come off on the highlighters or the highlighters will blur and smudge the ink on our page. Go ahead and open up your sketchbook to the pens and highlighters page. Maybe go to the next page so that you can work on this without getting ink on your table. And you'll want to get one piece of mixed media paper. You can tear this out of your mixed media pad. This is project paper, so keep in mind that this is for projects. Use your sketchbook for independent art, but it's a great way of having a nice thick paper for projects. All right, like we get started with every neurographic project, we're going to start not with a line, but with a thought. And the thought that I'm working on today is it's been kind of hard for me to fall asleep at night. So, sleeping well at night. That's my concern. I feel like when I sleep really well, I have a great day, and when I don't get enough sleep, I'm a little bit grumpy, so I'm going to be working on that. Turn over my paper, and now I am going to be using my tape to make small and slightly larger circles. Since I'm thinking of this as a tree, I'm not trying to actively make individual leaves, but I'm going to be using the circles in order to give the sense of a tree. Up in the top third, the middle third is going to be the trunk, and then the bottom third is going to be either the ocean, maybe a waterway, or maybe land. It's kind of up to you and depends a lot on the colors that you choose. So I'm going to take my circle template, and otherwise known as my tape, and I'm going to make 3 large circles tracing the outside of my circle template. I'm going to make one kind of about halfway and above. Yours is going to look different from mine, so don't worry if your circles are in the same place. And then maybe move it over. I know that those neurographic lines, the look of it, relies a lot on lines that overlap. That's where those corners get smoothed out. So I'm purposefully overlapping my 3 circles. Totally okay if your circles are in a different spot. Then I'm going to use the inside of my tape, and I'm going to make more circles, smaller ones. And really you can put them anywhere that you like. I'm kind of half thinking about a shape of a tree, but it's going to be beautiful no matter what it looks like. So you can just make circles as you would like. Now this tree is going to be big enough that it's actually going off of the page. So I think maybe I'll make another big circle over here, kind of filling the top third. Of my project paper with circles. Maybe I do a smaller circle over here, maybe a bigger circle over here, allowing those circles to overlap. Some of the circles will be going off of the page, and that's one of the reasons I like to work in my sketchbook. Then if I draw a circle that goes off of my project paper and onto my sketchbook, it's totally okay, not a big deal. So I kind of have this top third filled with circles. That's where my tree is. I can put that on to the side. You can pick it up later if you want. And then I'm going to get my thicker marker. And I'm going to draw arched lines from the top edge of my paper to the bottom edge of my paper. And I'm going to make, I don't know, about 5 or 6 of these. Really kind of letting them come together in a more narrow spot. You can make these straight, or you can make these kind of wiggly. Maybe one more. So the fatter the more distance there is in your lines, the fatter your trunk is going to be. The closer they are in the middle of the arc, the more narrow your trunk is going to be. And then I'm just going to come back in with my thin Sharpie again and kind of add some thin lines. When we did the little experiment with weights of lines, I found that I really liked the combination of thin lines and thick lines. And I'm just bringing these down. Ooh, I kind of like how this is starting on the left and coming over to the right. So I don't mind that. Kind of gives this like a wind-blown look. Again, yours is going to look different from mine, and it should, because you're a different person. Oh, I really kind of like how that ended up wind-blown. This is a very gnarled tree. All right. That's the second step in our neurographic art process. And then the third step is to round out all of these corners. Now, when you zoom in, you just pick a corner and you start smoothing it out. Now, since I'm going to be using this thin Sharpie, it's the ultra fine point, light gray barrel for all of these. And I have found that if I use this and I just round out the corners like that, just doing the corners themselves, then it kind of starts looking like, I don't know, like little bugs have been smashed in the corners of all of my lines. And so what I do instead of that is that I end up tracing the inside shape that is made with my line. Just like that. And sometimes I'm a little neater about it. I curve the corners, but I also end up tracing over those lines. And to me, it just gives overall a slightly better, smoother look that doesn't look like little ants have been smashed in the corners of my lines. I've also found that I don't really need to push down very hard when I'm using my thin pen. The more that I push down, the more likely it is to kind of bleed on my paper. So just trying to smooth out these shapes. Your shapes are going to be different from mine. So take your time. Enjoy the process. You can stop the video and listen to music while you do all of your corner smoothing. Or you can stop the video and just think about whatever your concern is that you're thinking about in order to make neurographic art. You can make it a nice, quiet experience without a lot of noise. Make sure that you're being mindful of the friends around you that are doing their neurographic art and are trying to consider and concentrate and meditate on their own concerns. All right, so now I'm just going to add additional lines in the bottom that represent maybe the ground or maybe it's the ocean. And since this is going a little higher over here, I think I'll just, I don't know, I'm gonna figure it out as I go. So I'm just starting on the left and making the lines just however I feel like they would look good. And remembering that it's when they cross over that the lines make a cross and you end up with corners so that you smooth those out, and that's a big part of the art. So I'm going to maybe come over here and add a couple more lines that cross over other lines, and just kind of decide what I think looks good at this point. Now I'm going to come back and get in there and smooth out those, maybe I'll add another one up here, smooth out those corners. Great. At this point, you might look at it overall and decide if everything is looking good to you. You can always add additional shapes. For some reason, this kind of blankish area up here is bothering me, so I'm going to come back now and add one more circle. Oops, that was not a very good circle, and it doesn't matter. So I'm just gonna come in here, round out my shapes, or my hard corners rather. And that's a little bit better. I might curve this around and just allow that line to get a little bit thicker. However, it kind of ties into the rest of the image. Maybe I'll make one more circle in here. Try to go slower so that my circle looks a little bit more circly. And make sure that I round out all of my corners. So in order to pick the colors, I'm going to look at my color chart with my highlighters along with my piece of art, and I'm going to decide what colors that I want to use. And so that if I get started in one class period and I have to finish in another class period, in order for me to remember what colors I used the first period, then I'm going to make a notation on the back as to what colors I'm going to use. So you can use your pen or you can use a pencil. On the back of my artwork, I'm going to identify the colors that I'm using for the leaves, for the trunk, and then for the landscape. So I'm going to say trees, trunk, landscape. And you can make the landscape an ocean or you can make it grass. It's up to you. For the trees, what I'm going to do is use mostly greens with some yellow, but you can choose whatever you want. If you want to make it a purple tree, make it a purple tree. I would suggest that you use at least 3 colors of highlighters. If you do want to make it a purple tree, maybe you use the neon purple, this light purple number 10 of the Bible highlighters, and then maybe a pink, or maybe this darker purple, number 5 in the highlighters, Bible highlighters. It's up to you. If I'm making this tree, I used leaves and grass, the number 12, light yellow, light green, and neon green. So I'm going to use those again on this tree. So the light yellow, just as a reminder, I have 2 of these yellows. One of them is the neon and one of them is the light. So for the trees, I'm going to say light yellow. Make a little mark and a little reminder, light yellow. And I'm going to use neon green, neon green, and I'm going to use my number 12 Bible highlighters. Number 12. My light green. Light, oops, not light 3, light green. So pick at least 3 or more highlighter colors. And if you want to go crazy, you could use all of them. That would be very fun. It's totally up to you. For the trunk, now you can do all of your color selection first, flip it over and go to town, or you can work on one part of it, maybe the top of the leaves area, and pick out those colors, and then decide from your color chart where you want to go from there. You can decide to do the background if you want. I did not. I left that open, but you could color that completely in. I think next time I might try to do an oceany color down here instead of grass. And you can be as realistic or not realistic as you want. If you want to have purple trunks and orange leaves and a blue grass, that's totally fine. You do you. I can't wait to see how it turns out.